Welcome to raigurkul.com. Myself, Deepak, and today we're going to talk about common mistakes in software testing, which is done by software tester or test lead or test manager. So here we'll discuss in detail which all common mistakes regularly performed by any tester or their team. To avoid this, you can completely watch this video. And if you think so, this might add or require some more points. Feel free to add in the comment section so that it will be useful for the viewer who is watching this video. Now let's get started. So first of all, first common mistakes which is done by the test manager is lack of test planning. Normally, while doing planning, people are not considering each and every area of testing. This is having issues at the time of performing testings because of not having well-planned test plan leads to insufficient and ineffective testing, which might miss some of the defects at the time of productions. There's also the raise time frame at the time of testing. If planning is not proper, resources are not occupied, or resources are not well planned, in that case, it will leads to the delay at the time of testing. Sometimes it's going beyond the efforts estimations or increasing the cost of testing team. Next is inadequate test executions. Normally, when we are performing test execution, this needs to be done from each and every area, considering each factors, verifying each and every functionalities, be it high, medium, and low priority test cases. We need to perform based on the time frame. We need to perform each and every test cases. Poorly executed test case can result in missed defects and unreliable software, which is hampering the product quality of the product, and this might leads missing the defects in the productions, which is having turnaround time of more as compared to the early phases, finding the early phases defects. Next is inaccurate test reporting. While sharing the details or reporting the execution part, if inaccurate or incomplete test reports can hinder decision making and problem solving. It means whenever we are sharing the detail of any executions or testing reports, we need to highlight each and every factors considering the environment, testing, documentations, unavailability of the resources. Each and every criteria needs to be highlighted. If there is any blocker, that needs to be specified at the time of reporting so that the individual persons or the actionable needs to provide the proper documentations, proper resources to continue the testing. Now, which all types of testing we are doing normally? First is unit testing, where individual components ensure the functionality and verifying each and every piece of the code. Next is integration testing, testing the interactions between the different components, their navigation path, then connectivity from one connections to the other. Let's say we have the functionality of Facebook. Facebook is having chatter sections, messengers. So if both the applications are not integrated, we won't be able to send out a message, and this will not deliver to the respective recipient. So in that case, integration testing needs to perform proper way, and leading that we can remove the defects or avoid the defects inside the production. Then system testing, testing the entire system to evaluate its compliance and requirements. If any critical functionality will be there, we have to test those functionality from every coverage testing or boundary value analysis. Be it this, we can do this type of testings on thoroughly basis, or if you have any automation framework, we can also utilize it. Now, testing processes. So few of the testing processes are test planning, test executions, and test reporting. So if these processes are involved, now the test processes are a combinations of test planning, test executions, and reporting. When we are talking about the common mistakes, normally users or testers are doing mistake in these processes. If we will be able to find it out common mistakes, that will be helpful for improve our quality of the product. So planning needs to be taken care by each of the team members and finally reviewed by the test lead. And if this goes to their test manager has to review it again. And then test execution normally testing team is doing or junior tester is doing, then senior tester, and finally test lead who is generating the report. So if we will avoid common mistakes in these area, generally it will save our lot of time and effort, and we we will improve our quality of the product. Now, common mistakes in test planning, as we discussed: insufficient test coverage, lack of test environment setup, and undefined entry and exit criteria. So let's go one by one. Insufficient test coverage, what does it mean? Let's consider example of login page. Login page is having multiple test cases, one with the positive scenario and second with the negative scenario. Let's take an example of if tester is completed the positive scenario and he missed it negative scenario, the chances will be authorizations or authentications will not work proper. Might be if user is entering wrong username and right password, then also he or she will be able to enter it. So negative testing will be must at the time of test coverage. For performing the testing, normally junior testers are following the test cases. If test cases are not in place, generally these problems occur. If test lead has verified each and every test cases considering all those corner areas, then that person will avoid the test coverage issue. Then the lack of environment setups. In some of the instances, DevOps teams or the IT team is not creating a separate environment, just like QA and UAT. Normally, QA and UAT is performed in the same environment. So it means the testing is not proper because UAT is the proper replica of production environment and QA is a replica of development environment. So if both the environments are not properly set up, and the versions and all those softwares are not available as per the productions, probably the chances of getting error or defects in production will be more. So it's always suggested to create proper environment in place so that testing team can work efficiencies and find out the defects in early stages rather than finding into the productions, which end up with adding lot more cost into the development. Next is undefined entry and exit criteria. At the time of test planning, normally some of the team members are missing adding entry and exit criteria, which leads to the issues at the time of testing because tester is not aware when we can enter into the testing and when we are completing the part of testing. Now, what are common mistakes we are doing at the time of executions? So when we are performing executions, data is an important factor. If data is not proper, generally we are missing critical defects. Let's again consider one example of form filling. Form filling, let's consider having areas or text boxes which includes first name, last name, telephone number, and email ID. But if test data is not properly available, normally it's incomplete, unrealistic test data will hamper or release the defects at the time of productions. Verifying with the proper test set and data will help us to find out the defect in early stages rather than getting the defects into the production. Poorly designed test cases will again create an issue for the junior tester. Because of this, they might miss some of the defects. If the testers are experienced, they will also apply their own mind for testing. But if tester is just blindly following the test cases, normally this will create a very big problem at the time of productions. Creating test cases that do not cover important scenario will also leads of missing the defects or missing the proper functionality, skipping test validations, neglecting to validate test results against expected outcomes will also create a big challenge for any product. Now, which are common factors normally we are getting in test reporting? So test reporting will result in incomplete test results. Leaving out essential information test reports is generally a one factor. Second is lack of clarity in defect reporting, where if we are using the defect reporting tool, normally we have to follow some etiquettes. If these etiquettes are not defined at the time of login defect, probably this will create a problem for the user who is reading that defect first time. So crystal clear information is required to be added. Each and every steps which we are doing at the time of reproducing defects needs to be added, as well as if we have any screenshots, documentations, or uh, defect related recordings, we need to attach it. And finally, failure to prioritize test findings. So not highlighting critical issues and their impact, which leads to the bigger problem at the end. Now, which are important tips for the software testings or effective tips for the software testings? To define clear objective is one factor where establishing clear goal and expectations of software testing. If something is not mentioned, it means that they have forget it. So objectives well needs to be defined at the time of test strategy documents. If anything is missing, that might create an issue at the time of testing. Plan and prioritize testing. Creating a well-structured test plan and prioritizing testing is important factor. Let's see, at the time of planning, testing team is recommended to start with 4 testers. And when the product is ready for the testing, just 3 testers are available. In that case, timeline will increase. Or second factor, let's consider other way around. If testing team has planned with 5 testers, but 5 testers don't have that much work at the time of testing. So this will also leads of keeping the resources in without any work. In that case, also cost of the development will also increase or cost of testing will also increase. So planning each and every factors is important. This is just with the resource planning. Second, with the executions, let's consider proper environment is in not place. If they need any authentications and authorization process, that needs to be followed. So each and every planning should be prioritized, and post prioritizations or test plan, testing team is proceeding ahead. Next is use automations, test automations, I mean. So if we have test automations in place, testing needs to be perform the testing with that, where they will immediately churn out the testing processes to or execute the test cases in very quickly rather than doing manually. So leveraging automations tools to improve their efficiency and accuracies will help us to minimize their efforts and time frame of testing. Now, which all tools we can use for better testing? First is test management tool. Rather than using traditional approach of managing test cases in Excel, where we might miss up important factor like versioning system. When we have tested, maybe we missed it. So generally, rather than working with the Excel or any other documentations of the test cases, prefer to use test management tool like Jira and Rally. If you want to learn more about Jira and Rally, feel free to follow my Jira and Rally playlist. This will help you to understand each and everything in detail. So feel free to refer it from the playlist. Next is test automations tool. Automating repetitive and complex testing tasks will help us to minimize our time frame and quickly finish the executions. So there are a lot of tools are available. Normally nowadays people are using RPA and AI based tool to build the test script very quickly without writing a single line of code. So you can utilize these testing frameworks or tools which will help you to minimize your effort of testing. Then defect reporting tool. In earlier days of software testing, people were using either email system or Excel sheet to notify about the defects. But normally defect reporting tool will help us to streamline each and every activity of the defects. Let's consider testing team reads the defects. This will auto assign to the development or analysis team. If analysis team approve this is a defect, this will auto assign to the development. So this is a process is random automatically following rather than reaching out to here or dropping email to and through. So defect reporting team tool will streamline the defect management process. So normally using these tools will help us to streamline complete testing activity. There are a lot of tools are available in the market. So either you can use Jira, Rally, Mantis, or there are several other tools which you can take out for logging the defects. Now, final conclusion about this. Avoiding common mistakes by underlying and addressing common mistakes, software testing can be more effective and we can streamline the testing process without creating any hustle or blocker for testing. Continuous improvement will help us team to minimize or take out learning from the past experiences. So regularly access and refine testing process and test strategy will help us to continuous improvement. And importance of collaborations is effective communication and collaboration among team members are crucial for successful testing. So that's all from today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you think so this will be useful, feel free to share within your circle. And if you think so, we should add few more content related to software testing, please add in the comment sections. We'll definitely come up with new ideas and topics related to software testing. Thank you for watching.